You can also find Pressbox Radio 1 on X. Give them a follow. Mike Grace, he is Mr. Pressbox himself. Of course, you can hear them every night here, Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. to 10. He joins us to talk a little SEC sports. Mike, welcome in, sir. How are you?
I am great. I am pumped for some Egg Bowl basketball tonight, man.
How about that? I mean, what's your thoughts so far? I mean, we got a long way to go. We're about to hit the turn here on the second half of the season. I mean, it's going quick. But when you look at these two programs, Mississippi State with a big win over the weekend, Ole Miss, they've had big wins as well. We're talking to a lot of people like you are about how deep is this league. Is it 6, 7, 8, 9? We'll see what the NCAA tournament kind of rolls out. But looking at the matchup tonight and then looking at these two programs, your thoughts so far on State and Ole Miss?
Well, is this going to be the biggest game ever at the Pavilion? I mean, this is huge tonight with State coming off their back-to-back wins, or 2 wins at least in January over top 5 teams in Auburn and Tennessee, or top 10 teams, I guess. But they have yet to win on the road at all this season. They got 6 neutral site wins, Jake, but have yet to win a true road game. 0-3 in the league on the road, and really haven't even been competitive. On the other side, you got Ole Miss that's unbeaten inside the Pavilion this year, and new life under Chris Beard. I'm expecting the place to be rocking tonight. It should be a whole lot of fun to watch.
Mike Grace on your radio, Tuesday edition of the program. Make sure to find them on X. Check out their show. You can get it right here at 8 o'clock tonight. Mike, when you look at the SEC as a whole, is this the deepest that you can remember this league has been?
Man, it's hard to say it's not. I mean, look, we've had years, the last couple of years, where Bama's been number 1 in the country. We don't have a team that high this season, but when you look at the quantity of quality that is up and down this league, Ole Miss is a perfect example, Jake. This team was at the basement of the league a year ago. They're 17-3 now, 4-3 in the league. They're just coming off their first ever win at Texas A&M. Never had Ole Miss won a basketball game at Texas A&M until this past weekend. So I just think up and down the line, you can't take anything for granted, and it's why for both clubs tonight, for State to try to steal a win, and for Ole Miss to protect that home court advantage. It's a big game for both clubs.
You talked about Mississippi State, and it will be interesting to see if a trend is bucked one way or the other. Ole Miss 12-0 at home, State 0-4 on the road, but they are 6-0 on neutral sites. And sometimes this thing goes tit for tat between State and Ole Miss. A lot of splitting. You get back into Rick Stansberry, and when he was at Mississippi State, they owned that series. But who do you like tonight in this ballgame?
Well, I mean, I like State if they can do a couple of things. The first thing they got to do is avoid the letdown. I mean, coming off the big win over Auburn, I think Chris Jans will do a good job of getting those guys back. Enjoy that win, but you got to flush it. And then you got to do what you've been doing. So the strength of this team is defense and rebounding. Those things should travel. You just got to find a little offense every now and then. And look, the free throws thing, they're a must, man. They didn't cost this team on Saturday when they hit some key ones down the stretch versus Auburn, but they were still just 9 of 18, just 50% from the stripe. And you got to do better than that if you want to win anywhere on the road in this league.
Mike, we'll have SEC baseball, college baseball. First pitch starts here in a little over 2 weeks on the 16th of February. You look at the SEC, again, nationally, just front-loaded from Florida, Arkansas, LSU, all getting, garnering attention nationally. Vanderbilt, top 10 type teams, Texas A&M. You look at what Alabama did last year. It's hard to believe South Carolina that Mississippi State and Ole Miss we're not that far removed from back-to-back national championships in this state, but this league is so tough and it is so deep. What defines success for both State and Ole Miss this year in baseball? And especially for Chris Lemonis, you could make the case for Mike Bianco. Where do they need to be coaching at these universities in 2025?
The past 2 seasons for Lemonis and Starkville have been the kind of years that State fans aren't used to. Well, let's just face that. Baseball fans in Starkville aren't used to the last 2 seasons. Coming off that national championship, that bought Lemonis a lot of goodwill. You wonder if that's going to be running out this year if they can't come up with a winning record in league play and get back to the tournament, at least make a decent showing in that regard. And again, I think for Ole Miss, they still got a little bit of room because their national championship came a year later than State's. But still, you expect these 2 programs to be near the top of the SEC. But gosh, you're right, Jake. It's so loaded from top to bottom, man. There's just no easy weekend in SEC play at all.
Let's pivot over to football, get your thoughts on a couple things while I got just a few minutes here. Let's stay in the state of Mississippi and go back to Oxford. We all know about Lane Kiffin and what he's been able to do in the transfer portal. Depending on the outlet, they're going to be somewhere 19, 20, 21 in recruiting. But the portal is where, they have made their money, no pun intended. And you look at obviously the loss of Quinshon Judkins, but so many players they have picked up. And here recently, they pick up a big offensive lineman, from the University of Washington, who played 13 ball games. This has been fascinating to watch. Actually, 2 offensive linemen from the University of Washington. Now, to see Lane Kiffin build this roster, and the expectations are as high as I can remember in Oxford.
Has this guy figured out the recruiting pitch, the new recruiting deal? I mean, whether it's his social media presence, whatever it is, I don't know. But he's got it going down, and coming to the SIP is the new thing. The guy's come so close in years past. It's time for him to take that next step. I saw a recent ranking of SEC football coaches, and he was right below the top 2 guys. This guy had listed Brian Kelly and Kirby Smart, obviously. Kirby at number 1, Brian Kelly at number 2 as championship elite guys. But then Lane was in that next group of one step away. They are so close, and with the field expanding to a 12-team playoff this year, should be a great opportunity for Ole Miss to be in that playoff and try to make some true postseason noise. You mentioned the recruits they're bringing in. How about the home run hire? Bringing Joe Cox in as the new tight ends coach is huge. A former Nick Saban assistant in Alabama, a guy that Saban glowingly talked about. He's already recruiting in his home state of North Carolina, looking for more of those studs that Lane Kiffin's been putting together. And the thing that I love seeing today, Jake, how about Lane Kiffin, 3 years alcohol-free today, a really heartfelt social media post earlier. I know he catches a lot of flack sometimes for his social media stuff, but anybody who's got a history of alcoholism and personal or in their family, something like that, knows what a bear that can be. And you got to be happy for Lane Kiffin. And for a state guy to feel good about Lane Kiffin, that's a stretch for this guy, but I'm doing it.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, hats off to Lane Kiffin for that. That is a very tough deal to battle, and he's been open and honest about it. And I hope that he continues down that path. Hey, let me stay at the transfer portal, and we'll get you out of here on this question here. Speaking of the transfer portal, we've talked about Alabama, Kalen DeBoer coming in, the Alabama guys transferring out. Mike, they've got almost 30 guys, 29 guys in the portal out. They've brought 6 in. They'll get a few more of those guys. They'll get some guys back in on the second short window after spring practice. Last year, they had somewhere around 22, 23 guys and only 7 or 8 in. I don't know that we're focusing on this enough, but that depth in Alabama, boy, it is really, really just deteriorated over the last 2 years.
And look, there are folks who believe that Kalen DeBoer was the perfect hire, the perfect guy to try to replace Nick Saban. You're not going to replace him, but to follow him. But Jake, I'm with you. I don't care, especially with all the transfer portal news as you mentioned. How does this program not take a step back? I mean, I don't think there's anyone that could step in and do what Saban has done. So, Bama fans are optimistic. They love the hire. They're behind Kalen DeBoer. I just really wonder. It's going to be tough, especially with the expanded SEC, that Texas and Oklahoma program coming in. But good luck, Kalen DeBoer. You need to go find you some players because you've got a tough league to compete in.
Lastly, DJ Durkin to Auburn. Good hire, bad hire? Got to wait and see.
Man, got to wait and see. It's a name that's out there, been out there, the former Maryland head coach. He's got his experience in the SEC. He's got his experience with Hugh Freeze. It's interesting to me to see how Freeze does kind of manage the turnover in his staff. I mean, to turn so much turnover after just one season, you wonder if maybe having Carnell and Zach Etheridge, the other 2 Auburn guys there, just they weren't his guys. So is this him, moving those guys out, getting his guys in? If so, and either way, I mean, the guy needs to win this year. Last year was a so-so year for Auburn, but they're not going to stand for that for very long.
Make sure to find them on X at Pressbox Radio 1. That's Pressbox Radio 1. Go to PressBoxRadio.com to grab the show. You can always hear it right here on ESPN 105.9 The Zone, 8 to 10. You'll get that tonight as well. Well, after Mississippi State basketball concludes as well. Mike, I appreciate your time as always. Look, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the ball games. We'll talk soon.
Hey, man, and if I can, a quick plug for the show. We got some fun. Bruce Pearl is with us inside the press box tomorrow, coming up on Thursday. We've got the Jim Nagy, executive director of the Senior Bowl, and Friday, Ian Eagle, fresh off the AFC Championship game call on Westwood One and getting ready for the international call of Super Bowl 58, will join us Friday inside the press box.
Very good. Very good. Mike, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.